nickname them. 16-11 on Mirage. We're going to jump into the second map right now. So current score 7-2 to Mousesports. 7-3 now. Just lost 2 rounds in a row, in fact, because they were 7-1 up. And we'll get some game sounds as well for this one. Mousesports doing okay. I mean, 7-1 was fine. And bearing in mind this is Nuke, so it's massively CT biased. It is the second highest biased of any map. Only Train is more CT biased, statistically speaking at least. And they've just lost the last 2 rounds. So that was disappointing for them.
And they're actually going to have an eco now, so we're probably going to see 7-4 to Mousesports. Yeah,
and you don't really want to give away any more than 4 rounds on Nuke, do you?
And speaking of the devil, they have a full... No, they have 1 250. Not a full.
You didn't think they were going to do that, did you? They have been ultra rare though, haven't they? Complete and utter, what we call a perfectly naked eco. Didn't buy a single thing. We just haven't seen them.
Yeah, but it makes sense as the pistols are so good in this game.
Yeah, they are. Very effective indeed. As Stinger demonstrates perfectly and has already picked himself up 1 on the outer area. As SMF now makes his way out towards the outside. He's going to come under some fire here as well. And in fact, 2 or 3 players are outside here. MX has got himself a second, and there's a third. This is going to be a brilliant anti-eco here. 2 men remaining. And Stinger, oh, he gets down now. He's picked up an AK. Shouldn't have picked it up. Should have stuck with what he had. And suddenly we're back to a 2 versus 2 after Mousesports have thrown away a 4-2 lead. Rattlesnake with AWP. Doesn't miss too many, but did miss that one.
So
and they've got very low HP. He could almost get it 1 and now nails Herden, and it's now a 1 versus 1 and 14 points of health for Glaive. And Rattlesnake tried to go for the shot. Grenade comes over the top, does land the shot in the end.
Winning an eco round like that.
Wow.
Maybe that was like Copenhagen Wolves' chance to come back into this game after losing the first map, but losing an eco after that, it's not good for them.
That's mind-blowing sometimes.
Plus for their mentality.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing sometimes how they play like that, and yet you see them in other rounds and you just think, wow, these guys are amazing, they're so good. And then they play around like that, which is just daft. Very weird. Here's Rattlesnake's favourite little jump. He's going to spy over the top of the 2 boxes at the back outside, sees nothing going on, so he'll flip round. There's a nice little run-through of shots from Pete in the upper area, who I didn't even get to see because he was so fast. And that'll be 9-3 on the eco. So now, buy round for the Copenhagen Wolves from Denmark. We've already seen 1 Scandinavian team through this evening. Copenhagen Wolves not only have to come back in this map and win 12 of the next 18 rounds, 17 rounds, but they'd also have to win another map as well, because they're down by 1 after Mirage went the way of Mousesports.
Quite shocking result, I think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they were very good against NIP, weren't they, yesterday, 16-14. So, you know, I suppose we could probably say, actually, it's probably Mousesports' favourite map right now.
Yeah, that's
and the hole in the door, always interesting, isn't it? Because it's made it a little bit different, that squeaky door. No longer squeaks either. They fixed that after 10 years.
I like the squeak.
Guy trying to make his way through into that area. This is, of course, Nico normally, who is down by Pete, who's lost none of his accuracy after playing in 3 different Counter-Strike games at a high level. Remember, he was also in the CGS team, the Birmingham Salvo, many years ago, along with Rattlesnake, who is still playing in this team, amazingly. 4 versus 2 right now, and MX just waiting. We're going to switch over. I want to see a little bit more of Stinger as well. He's a player I've watched a lot in CS Source, was actually a really, really fantastic player in CS Source. And that's why, look at that, 2 in a row, no problem at all. And Mousesports rack up another round, 10-3. 12-3 is fine, isn't it? 12-3 score, fine. 11-4 is fine.
Yeah, it's very, very good score.
Don't want to do 10-5 though, do you?
No, 10-5...
10-5 is a little bit awkward, isn't it, as a CT?
Feel like 10-5 is like even.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean, because it just means if you lose the pistols and it's 10-8, and then you're really up against it for 8 rounds, that's going to be really hard to win them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, something I noticed about teams in CSGO, that if they get a pick on ramp, the CTs actually like let go of ramp completely and just protect the lower bomb sites through the vents.
Yeah.
Because you run so fast in events.
Tiny little thing to mention there as well. There was just 13 points of the armour, no health loss by jumping off the side in up onto the crates just below. You can jump onto the top of the... wow, look at this. They're actually just motoring through right now, so easy stuff outside, and PRB will pick up the final. Just as I was finishing off saying that, if you jump down onto the top of the little forklift, you actually don't lose any health, but it's harder because you have to walk down the edge of the side and then navigate and then drop down, and by then you could have got shot at. So Stinger was much quicker in there, just dropped right down onto those crates below, and you don't actually lose any health. So nice little tip for those that haven't played much Go.
And this kind of makes me wonder, with Mousesports being so, yeah, crushing with Copenhagen Wolves so far in this game, if Fnatic had been in another group, what would have happened then? I mean, they played Mousesports and IP.
That's a great point. It does put into perspective some of the earlier results in the group games. Particularly that one of Fnatic, as you rightly said. Maybe they're not as bad as people said they were. To be honest, I thought they had a good tournament anyway. I think if Mousesports win this, it just puts it into perspective even more that actually, Mousesports are much better than anyone thought, and so are Fnatic.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Mousesports might even be the second best team.
Oh my goodness me! Rattlesnake absolutely on fire. Blows Nikolai away with the AWP and then pops round at the corner for a 1-dig. And MX will finish things off for a 12-3 half win. And that's pretty much job done for the Englishmen and the Norwegians.
Yeah, I mean, even if Wolves wins the pistol rounds, they have such a long road ahead of them to come back from this.
Yep, not impossible. Seen plenty of these before. In fact, a few years ago, I actually saw a team 15-0'd on T-side, and everything they did was horrible. And they switched over, and they won all 15 rounds. It happens like that sometimes on Nuke. It's a momentum game, as we well know, and unfortunately, when it's a momentum game and it's biased towards CT and you're winning round after round after round, everything snowballs.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like the world's against you when you're a terrorist on this map.
Yeah, you're completely right.
So, pistols as important as ever, especially now for Copenhagen Wolves, because if they give away the pistols, and that's 13-3...
And look at this, MX has got himself down on the yard, and he forced 3 guys from Wolves to protect the lower side.
Look at this. Rattlesnake also at the top of that ladder. They already know Pete's going to drop down and finish him off for sure. Rattlesnake then bursts out into the upper bomb site, tries to get the bomb planted early, doesn't manage to do so though, and PRB now is going to try and get their shots up into the upper bomb site, and it somehow has managed to plant up there. I have no idea how he's managed to do that, but he has. 2 men in the open area, Rattlesnake nails one of them. And now Nico has got himself 1. Can he get himself a second? Actually, Rattlesnake is in that upper bomb site. It's 2 versus 1 right now, and they're getting him very busy indeed. He's down to the last bits of health right now, and Rattlesnake will finish him off. And that is round and surely match over now for Mousesports, leading 13-3.
Yeah, perfect execution there from Mousesports. I want more teams to do that. They just send 1 guy down the stairs on yard, which forces the CT to protect like 3 more positions.
Yes.
The guys in B1 has to think about the vents. The guy on ramp has to worry about B2.
Yep.
And they're not even there.
No, and you're right. It just puts you, it's sort of like a mental thing, isn't it? Because you then start to worry about where people are going to come from, whereas before you kind of know where they're going to come from.
Yeah, exactly.
And puts doubt in their mind, and that's exactly what they did. Executed brilliantly as well. Now they are actually going to make a run for the garage here. 3 men go down the road, and wow, Stinger was very quick to react to that one because Herden was right in there and did a little bit of damage as well to MX and Pete. But they've got away with it. Now checked out the lower bomb site. Very positive indeed. There is 1 man behind them. I don't think Rattlesnake's seen him. Now he does. He spins round and picks him off. Stinger's there as well. Rattlesnake with the last one. And that's 14-3 on an eco. And are we going to see an early buy to stop the draw? But it doesn't make any difference. I wouldn't right now, would you?
No, I don't think so. I mean...
No,
there's basically
money-wise,
no answer
no.
for this
There's no way they can do it anyway. So
there's no answer for this situation.
It is going to be an eco. It's going to be 15-3. And then Copenhagen Wolves just need to win 12 in a row. Not a problem.
Yeah. That's just a simple text.
Who am I trying to
versus
kid?
Mousesports.
Yeah. Who have already won map 1, remember. 16-11 on Mirage. Looks like Mousesports now are cruising towards a semi-final spot where they will rematch with Ninjas in Pyjamas. And I know Rattlesnake and boys love a rematch. They'll have learnt a huge amount from playing Nip earlier on. And don't forget as well, they were very close to beating them on Mirage. It was 16-14. as Pete and Stinger have combined here. PRB's actually got the chance to pick up another one, who is being a bit of a nuisance just down in those vents right now. And he will get that frag surely on Glaive. Well, he will now. That grenade's going to blow him to smithereens. Right down in the bottom of the vents. And SMF now is the last man alive here. And, takes a face full of bullets from PRB on the outside. That SMG doing a lot of damage. And we move to match point. Not just one match point. Count them, ladies and gentlemen, on more than the fingers you have on your hands. They've got 12 match points.
Yeah, 12 rounds to just even the score. I mean, I don't think they have the motivation in them to like even take this first round.
We'll be looking to polish things off. Just having a quick look at the scoreboard, actually. MX is topping the scoreboard right now. He's had a stunning nuke, the Welshman, 19-7. Stinger, 19-10. And Rattlesnake and Pete, 16 apiece. PRB, actually, 12-5. Still a fantastic score. Look at these positive strats. Oh, they've walked straight past Nico, who's picked up 2 inside that area. In fact, he's picked up 3 before being finished off by MX. And MX and PRB have combined to pick up another frag apiece now, and they've got a 2 versus 1. I don't know how this has happened, because really, with Nico picking up that triple, it was a 5 versus 2, and it's switched round to being a 2 versus 1. PRB admittedly has just 9 points of health here, and should be finished off for this to be a 1 versus 1. Oh, do you know what? MX is in trouble now. He's got 19 points of health as well.
But MX is up on top of the hut here, and I think he was going to take him.
And surely this is game over. Wow, SMF though picks up the first one, can't get the second one. And it's game, set and match Mousesports with a 16-3 stunning win. And MX top of the scoreboard as well. Appropriately, the man that finishes off the last kill. Mousesports through to the semi-finals alongside Ninjas in Pyjamas. And it does, as you said earlier, it does put into perspective the power of Group A, because that's both Group A teams gone through. Neither of the Group B teams have gone through, and they've both been beaten pretty soundly as well.
Yeah, exactly, and Fnatic was super close of beating Mousesports.
Absolutely,
as well.
yeah, so that just puts into perspective that Fnatic, you know, they're not that far away. And depending on how far, both of these teams are now in the semi-finals, which means they're top 4 from the same group. That could put Fnatic, say, 5th.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. Mousesports could even be the second best team here. Depending, I mean, Very Games have been very shaky in the group stage, so...
Yeah, it's almost a shame for Mousesports that they've gone the side of Nip in the tournament. But you know what? To win these, you've got to beat all the best teams. Rattlesnake said earlier on, thanks for the draw, mate. Did us some really good favours there, and I think he was joking. I hope he was joking. I didn't make the draw after all, but he's right. You know, he said we've got the best Danish team, and then we've got the best Swedish team, and even if we beat them, we've got the best French team. And that's like 3 of the top 5 or 6 teams in the world. To try and get to in their first LAN tournament. That's a large-scale LAN anyway. They were pretty miserable the first time they appeared on LAN, I have to say. But right now, they are perfectly placed to take on Nip in the semi-finals. That'll be taking place tomorrow, and we'll also have the second set of the quarterfinals, the last 2 quarterfinals, of course, to go through, and we'll find out who will go through in those. Got the Battle of Sweden going on tomorrow as well, and of course, the grand final in this €40,000 Logitech CSGO Championship live from DreamHack Winter here. Right now, we're going to say goodbye. It is goodbye from me as well from the CSGO. Tomorrow I'll be in the Knarps Arena for the ice hockey. Not for the ice hockey, by the way, but for the StarCraft 2 grand finals. And instead you'll be dealt with by Corey Dunn, by Lurpis, and this man as well for joining us, Threat. Right now we're going to send it over to the studio where Corey is going to wrap things up for us on day 2 of the Logitech CSGO tournament.
All right, so thanks a lot there, Red Eye, especially just looking at the tail end of that matchup there between the Copenhagen Wolves and Mousesports. It can already start off by after the draw. We had the chance to be able to sit down and talk with from Mousesports there at the end. You had some really interesting comments that was being made there by Rattlesnake. Rattlesnake he's like, well, we already know, I can't believe we're having to face off against NIP, and it was stating, well, you also have to face off against Copenhagen Wolves. At the same time, he was like, well, but I'm going to be facing off against NIP here in just a moment. So that's how, again, that's exactly how it's going to end up. One of the things that I thought was really interesting that Red Eye brought up as well is all the different types of nations that are coming into play here in this tournament. It's not just European focus. We also have Team Dynamic has been able to make it here. into the playoffs. We've got the Swedish team. Brazilians just got knocked out. We have Denmark, who just got knocked out. We got the UK with the Norwegian squad that's coming up here. Also, varied games, the French squad, and of course, which also is another interesting story. Kind of hurts in the aspect of the two BYOC teams that have actually made it through the process have actually hopped in here. We'll go ahead and bring in Lurpus, and you had the chance. You were over there in the tournament area, and you were able to watch both of these sets of matchups. Let's go and kind of talk about both of what you saw.
Well, I'll start with the NIP match because that obviously took place first. First map was very dominant. Pro Gaming didn't really get a chance to get into the match. Towards the first half, they strung together maybe like 4 rounds, and it was looking okay, but then NIP took it pretty quickly in the second half. I think Inferno on NIP Pro Gaming actually looked like NIP was getting tested. So that's the second time in this tournament. So maybe we'll have someone challenge them tomorrow.
That was one of the interesting things that I brought up during the end part of that was that there was a lot of individual skill that was being done by Pro Gaming, but collectively the team effort wasn't there when it needed to be.
Yeah, it's actually surprising knowing how much they've been preparing. They've been basically living off of Inferno Online for a while now. So you would think that would be something that they would have perfected by now. Steel looked really impressive from the Brazilians.
Very impressive.
He had a lot of big rounds for his team. Even so, Kogu got a couple of picks, but Steel was definitely the best Brazilian player here.
Yeah, so that's going to bring us into this matchup, the very tail end that we caught. Let's go and take some look at the highlights during this between Copenhagen Wolves and Mousesports. So we can kind of break things down of what we saw, and especially what you had seen there at the end of that game. So let's just go and take a look here. So some of the things that you may have been able to pick up on, one of the things that we saw on our end, though, was how crazy Rattlesnake was here in this game. Especially his op was definitely on the outside. He just controlled the game with that AWP.
Yeah, he played really well. I was mostly sitting behind Copenhagen Wolves, so it wasn't that great of a match to watch for me. I kept seeing what would be black screens at 1.6 with fade to black, but you know, it's just they were just getting shot down all over the map. They didn't really get a lot of close rounds, and you know, their frustration was very visible. You could see them just yelling and punching the table a little rattlesnake style after the first map and at the end of the game. So I think the Wolves definitely thought they were going to walk away with a win there, and they were really bummed after the match.
So that kind of wraps up what happened here in the quarterfinals between these two sets of teams. NIP is going to move on against ProGaming.td 2-0, and then we also have Copenhagen Wolves. They're going to get eliminated, so Mousesports is going to move on from their 2-0, but that's going to bring us into tomorrow between Very Games and Dynamic, and also Lemon Dogs and Absolute Legends, the two BYOC teams that coming into the quarterfinals. How do you see this first matchup between the French and the Americans?
I think that's going to be a very interesting match to watch. I already said that before when we were talking about it. If Dynamic can just get some more fragging power all across the board. I was looking at the stats from the previous games, and it looked like Swag was actually playing extremely well. I didn't catch all of the first 2 games.
The first game, he was playing lights out with the assault rifles, especially with the M4. He actually dropped an AK at one point to pick up an M4, and he just completely mowed through players. I think he was sitting at 22 plus kills that he had throughout that first game that they had, and also AZK. That was without question was playing extremely well.
Yeah, I thought Dynamic was playing very well in the obviously in the first game, and then the second game when they brought it back to a tie, obviously not a great start to go down 4-11, but they got the tie in the end. Third game was a big laydown. I mean, they barely got on the board. They got 4 rounds, I believe, against Lemon Dogs. But even there, we saw Flash as a great play from, I believe it was AZK, who was hitting a lot of op shots. So I think they will probably match up against Very Games fairly well based on what I've seen from both of their playing styles. And we definitely saw today that Very Games are beatable. They are not, well, even NIP seems to be beatable, at least. People are getting rounds on them now, so that's progress. But I think Very Games are not necessarily going to make the finals here.
Yeah, looking at the way that Very Games played here in this tournament so far, in their group play, they faced off against Absolute Legends, where they won that one 16-11. Then they beat the Hawks 16-12. And then finally they were able to beat 3D Max 16-3. But at that point, 3D Max was already out of the game. And, of course, Very Games already had their victory in the bag there to move on into the quarterfinals. But, you know, one of the games that we had the chance to watch was the matchup between the Hawks and Very Games and how that one kind of panned out. What can we take from that in consideration going into the quarterfinals?
Well, I think Very Games actually, opposite to Hawks, they play fairly consistently at their level. But I think also we've seen that there are some flaws to their playing style. If they start losing, they tend to oversave a lot. They tend to go to their Deagles and P250s and just a lot of nades instead of just full-on saving. And it seems like they keep giving up a lot of rounds instead of just full saving once and trying to win the next round with full weapons. So we'll see how that pans out, but I think that's definitely something that they have to look into because that already cost them that match at ESWC against the Nexus where they ended up tying.
Right. Yeah, so that's also the concern there on the other side for the Americans for Team Dynamic. They ended coming out of there. For somehow, some way, they came out of the group play having 1 win, 1 tie, and 1 loss. And, of course, they got their victory to start things off. I think it was almost like a half-life, if you will. Their first game, they played extremely well against In-Faculty. The next one, they just knocked themselves down a notch. And then the third game, I don't even know if they knew what game they were playing at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a roller coaster. I think it's the best way to describe how they've been playing. I was talking to some of the Dynamic guys watching NIP play down in the tournament area, and I think both Pix and Adren said that they don't deserve to advance, but they'll take it.
Well, hopefully they take that in consideration whenever they go into this next matchup. They're going to probably kind of get everything together. Really what you need to have is Pex step up his game and also Kiko step up his game. Adren was playing pretty consistent for the most part, and AZK was playing lights out, and Swag was doing his thing in the first 2 games. So again, we'll be seeing that matchup tomorrow between Very Games and Team Dynamic. Also at the exact same time will be Absolute Legends. They'll be facing off against Lemon Dogs, the 2 BYC teams. How do you see that matchup panning out in the end? Who's going to take the victory there?
I honestly have no idea. I think Lemon Dogs are slight favorites over Absolute Legends. I think they've been playing Go for a long time. They went to the very first LAN tournament held in it. That was the Inferno Online Steel Series Go. And they lost against NIP in the finals, and people actually thought NIP wouldn't be that good because it was sort of a close match. So, I mean, they've been playing for a while, and they've proven to be pretty good. I mean, they just demolished Dynamic. They got a couple of ties, and even in the match against the Nexus, they had a 13-2 lead that they just weren't able to close. So, you know, if maybe they'll learn some killer instinct overnight.
Now, one of the players that we're going to be on the lookout from Lemon Dogs is definitely Twist. The way that he was playing throughout that game, again, he was very similar to AZK in the first 2 games. He was really just hitting those shots. He was peeking out, playing aggressive in certain angles, and just making every shot count. So in my honest opinion, I think that Lemon Dogs may take that. They'll definitely take the series. I'm still trying to determine whether or not they'll take it 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, it also comes down to maps and how pistols go. A lot of little things can determine a single map, especially in the best of 3. I think it gives teams a false sense of comfort where if you know it's a best of 3 and you start losing a lot early on, you don't necessarily feel, I don't think panic is the right word, but you know, you don't feel that need to win the same way because you know you're allowed to drop one map. Especially if you win the first map, you can lose the second map very easily if you start losing rounds early on.
All right, so that's going to kind of wrap up day 2 here at DreamHack Winter. And again, we're going to look forward to seeing the matchup between Very Games and Team Dynamic to kick the day off. And then also, of course, what's going to happen in the semifinals. And we'll also be over in the Dream Arena. So we'll get the full experience there in the finals for Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Special thanks to the crew here right now, as well as Red Eye. And hope he has a fun time casting or hosting the StarCraft 2 stream over there in that ice hockey arena. I'm going to have to step on by whenever I get the chance and whenever we get done with our finals. But a big shout out to Red Eye and finally getting the chance to cast with him at a tournament. Again, we've been casting for ages, and this is our first time. And also special thanks to Threat and Lurpus here as we're kind of wrapping up day 2 here.
That's about it, and we'll just have to come back tomorrow for more.
All right, see you guys tomorrow right here on this stream. Make sure you tweet about it, you Facebook it, all the other different types of social medias you can think of, or you know the typical Counter-Strike way, hop on the forums and tell everybody else about it to make sure they tune in tomorrow to see the first matchup between Dynamic and Very Games. That's so long here from day 2 from Jönköping, Sweden. Again, I'm Corey Dunn, and this is Lurpus, and we'll see you tomorrow.